One of the reasons why this jumped off the page for me is because God kind of whispered in my heart in the last couple of weeks, on and off, this common theme that men, husbands specifically, really don't have a clue how important their spiritual leadership sets up the rest of the family.
Why godly men don't, or at least should not, avoid conflict. Is there a time where you can or even should avoid conflict? Welcome to the Value Added Podcast. This is the topic of today, why godly men probably shouldn't avoid conflict, and perhaps can we find, at least biblically, some reasons why avoiding it might be a good thing?
Yeah, have you ever avoided a conflict?
Never. No. My Sicilian side, I win every conflict. I will not back down. No, there's definitely, this is going to be a fun topic, I think.
I think so.
I actually got some notes. If you've noticed recently, we haven't been taking too many notes. Kind of put together a couple of thoughts, and then we go for it. We jump into the conversation, see where the Lord leads. But
and we also wanted to come across more natural.
Yeah, trying to come across natural in the approach. But it was definitely one I had to dive in a little bit.
This one deserves a little more attention to it.
It does. Yeah. I think there's a lot that's at stake with this idea of conflict.
There is.
Well, not even the idea, the reality of conflict, I think is the better word.
Absolutely.
So let me start by asking you, Bill. This is one that I submitted to you. We have our running list.
We do the topics. Yep.
I saw this and I was like, okay, this is the next one.
We take turns picking the topic.
But you were the one that put it on.
I am.
The podcast, little dumping ground. So answer me that. Why did you put this one on? Was this one of those generated ones you found from like doing some research?
This is one of the topics that came up as a suggestion in a list in one of my searches, but it kind of jumped off the page.
Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. Why did it jump?
Well,
are you in the midst of conflict, Bill?
No. Actually, no. Things are going really well at the moment.
Good.
One of the reasons why this jumped off the page for me is because God kind of whispered in my heart in the last couple of weeks, on and off, this common theme that men, husbands specifically, really don't have a clue how important their spiritual leadership sets up the rest of the family and how it can just fall down, boil down, and spill over. So if I'm not walking close with the Lord, I'm noticing my wife and my kids are having more bad days. But if I am walking really close, walking in the Spirit, then that flows over to the rest. But I'm getting to the answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I see the question, right?
Well, I'm about to take a rabbit trail, so you better hurry up.
But regardless, no matter how closely I walk in the Spirit, there's always the sinful nature that we have to battle day in and day out in the household, in the workplace, right? Even though I could be the best Christian ever walking in the Spirit all the time, something outside of that may come in, right, and really impact. So I need the wisdom and the discernment and understanding, what do I do in those circumstances? Is this a conflict I can navigate? Mm-hmm. Is it really in my area of responsibility, given the relationships I have in that specific scenario? Or is this something where I can be an influence for someone else? Or is this someone I just have a situation where I have to take a back seat and come back and just watch and pray over? So that's kind of the birthplace of this idea and why it got onto our list of topics.
Yeah. That's what kind of ran through your mind.
Yeah, very quickly, actually. That was a quick summary of what my brain went through. Really.
No, I like it. I like how you started with us as men too, because we talked about that before on our podcast about, we set the spiritual energy and tone for our families, in that way. And I remember I mentioned during that episode too, I can be in a bad mood and it affects the rest of the family, but anybody else in the family can be in a bad mood. And I'm like, dude, snap out of it. Like, I'm having a good day.
Well, you can be in a good mood too. Hey, this sin is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
No, for sure. I'm just talking about in general.
Right. Exactly. But I'm compounding. There's more to it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So the conflict piece of it, again, we want to answer this question and do it as biblically as we can, but why shouldn't godly men avoid it? Because in my mind, there's a lot of avoiding conflict is like, man, that's awesome. If there's no conflict this week, great week. I don't need that. I don't need extra conflict in my life.
Right.
So walk us through beginnings of your answer here to this epic question. Where are we starting?
This is profound. You ready? This is a very, this
blow my mind.
Lightning bolt out of the sky kind of profound moment.
Blow my mind.
Because we're supposed to. We really should be walking towards that's one of our responsibilities as a man, to provide and protect, right? That's God's thumbprint on our identity as men, period.
Okay.
Right? And if we're protecting, that means we may have to resolve some conflict that's taking place to bring about that. Mm-hmm. Emotional protection, spiritual protection, or, heaven forbid, physical protection, where if conflict raises so much.
Right.
So, and ever hear Sermon on the Mount? Blessed are the peacemakers, right?
Yeah. Right.
So the short answer is, it's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So if we're going to talk about it as in the context of something we're supposed to be doing,
yep.
The next question is logically how?
Yeah.
Would you like to prove to us biblically why, other than just the one, blessed are the peacemakers, do we want to look at some scriptures that really kind of define this is your calling when it comes to conflict, or this is the approach you should take, and then jump into the nuts and bolts of the hows?
I think,
how do you want to do it?
I think scripture is pretty self-evident. If you did a search on peacemaking, or go back and watch our episode on what was the title of the episode we did on biblical manhood? It was last spring, right?
Yeah, that was
go
too long
watch
ago to remember
that.
the title.
That's a great resource. I think we all, if you're a believer in Christ and you've been in the Bible for any length of time, and maybe I'll throw some verses on the bottom of the screen here when I edit, but I think it's pretty straightforward. This is what Christ came to do, right? To be a peacemaker, and we're his ambassadors.
Right. That's both physically and spiritually.
Right. And you think of scriptures like, as it all possible, be at peace with all men, right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. So getting into the how-to.
Yeah.
Step one, check your attitude.
Okay.
Right? Make sure when you're resolving conflict, you're not bringing more to the situation. That as best as we can, we are responding out of prayer, out of being used by God, and out of not bringing any extra emotional baggage that will compound it. Mm-hmm. Now, here's a word picture in context of marriage. Let's talk for a second in context of marriage and conflict. Pre-marriage, you find someone you like, right? You're interested in potential, is this going to lead to marriage or not?
Sure.
Right? One of the best pieces of advice I've heard and now pass along is that, hey, how can you tell if somebody has baggage? They're breathing. You have baggage. I have baggage.
Everybody
we are all fallen sinners, right? So when two people come together, they have baggage. Different people have different number of pieces of baggage, different sizes, different shapes, but we all have it.
Right.
So what happens when people with baggage come together? Let's say one person has one piece of baggage and the other one has one piece of baggage. You bring two people together, do you have two pieces of baggage? No, you don't, because those interact and bump and cause sources of conflict and friction and grows exponentially. Then you have 15 pieces of baggage that you need to walk through.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So in making choices like that, you want to be, for clarity's sake, get to know the person well, understand who they are, their values, right? All of that, and what kind of wounds they have in their past that they're working through, because they're going to affect you. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter if conflict happens. It's a matter of when it will happen, right?
Interesting.
So first step, check your attitude. Assess the situation. That would be two, and I kind of hinted at that in that one. Yeah. And then third, if this person that you need to address the conflict with, maybe you just do it. You want to frame the conversation. It's like, Jared, we're kind of at a loggerhead about this topic. If you could give me 5 minutes to explain my perspective, then I want to give you 5 minutes to explain yours. And then if we could take turns asking questions about clarifying this, that would be really helpful. I really want to, we're going to spend eternity in heaven together. So let's fix this now. And, let's do this now anyway. Let's just take care of it. Right. So if you frame the conversation in advance, that can be helpful. Now, depending on the heat of the moment, you may not be able to do that. And then maybe you need to step away and calm down for a moment before you can approach it that way. Or come to agreement and say, look, we're really both heated right now. Let's take 2 minutes. Let's frame it. Let's take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, and then come back to this and then frame that next conversation. What's that going to look like that you can both agree to?
You're actually talking about principles. I think it's Gary Thomas in his book "Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married." I think I'm getting this right.
Maybe
but
I'm not familiar.
He talks about dealing with conflict, as in there's a few different ways you can do it. One of them is you deal with it now, and then another option is you deal with it later, right? So you meet on my side is the first one, right? Or really it should be the second one, but you meet on my side. So Bill and I have a disagreement.
Yep.
One of us caves to the other person. That works. It's called compromise.
Yep.
The next one is you meet in the middle. Each of you compromise a little bit. And then the third one is you meet later. We just can't agree, so we're going to come back to this at a later date.
Right.
Because our relationship's not worth the conflict. So that's kind of how he prefaces what you just said about
I like that.
Learn how to communicate. So really you can meet on your side, right? Or you can meet in the middle, or you can meet later. So that kind of reminded me of when you were talking about that.
Yeah. So check your attitude, assess the situation, establish ground rules. Number 4, where possible, act quickly, right? Because you want to act
sundown, go down type of thing.
We've talked about this. Our church leadership likes to keep short accounts, right? We walk towards the messes. Yes. We don't wait for the emotions, because what happens, like a good wine, it's going to ferment with time, right? And memory, in our sinful fallen condition, memory is so much more tied to our emotions than the actual facts of the situation. So the sooner we can act while we're closer with clarity to see and understand the facts of the situation, the better. And the more likely we'll resolve that sooner when it's down here rather than becoming something way up
undealt
here.
Past can breed resentment.
Yeah.
Things of that
Absolutely.
nature. So get it. Act quickly. So check your attitude, frame the conversation.
Yeah. Well, check your attitude, assess the situation.
I get you.
And those kind of,
go
checking your attitude is part of assessing the situation.
Right. But it's a good breakdown.
It is.
Check your attitude, assess the situation, and then that last one.
Establish ground rules and then act quickly.
And act quickly.
Yeah.
That's
and then
really good.
2 more.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Fight fair.
Oh, that was going to hard. That's going to be hard.
For
a lot of people, because you have to define what fighting fair is.
Keep the conversation on the issue, not on the person.
Thank
You're
you.
always like that.
Thank you.
You never do that.
Yes, those are accusatory words.
Accusatory, right? So, see, what happened here is when you said this is what I heard. Is that what you meant? Right? That keeps it on the moment.
I feel like I'm listening to myself when I'm doing marriage counseling. Well, it's both of you for your marriage, not each of you against each other because of your marriage.
And it's not about winning the argument and losing the relationship either. So you want to have that, okay, this is what I understand. Now your turn. What did you understand, right? And then listen. And that's the next step. You want to listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. I'm going to say that again.
Communication 101.
Yeah, listen to understand. Don't listen just to respond what you want to say next in that argument or in that conflict, right?
And you can tell when someone's listening to respond versus listening to understand.
You can. One of the tips, if you want to practice listening to understand, after they say something, ask 3 questions about what they just said before you give your response, right? That way you're digesting the information. I know oftentimes, I'm going to speak for myself and my wife will say something but doesn't always use the exact words of what she means. And part of this is my fault. The older I get, the more literal I am becoming in my communication, right? Unfortunately. And my wife has called me out on this very correctly. And I've been practicing to go slow down. Okay, honey, you said this word. Is that what you meant to convey? Because this is what I heard. Oh, no, this is what I'm trying to convey, right? So there's that aspect of listening to understand, asking questions.
Follow-up questions.
And then I will follow up with a point or but, or this is what I'm hearing, or this is what I think at this moment after I've asked those questions. Wow.
Yeah. Which again, that's another, I think I'm pretty sure it's Gary Thomas. Apologize if it's not, but he talks about that. Let's have a time of listening, right? And,
yeah.
So that's
acknowledge the point they're making. Once you've listened to understand, oh, so you're saying this. Yes. Acknowledgement. I get that now. Thank you. I was missing that piece.
All right, give us the next one.
Yep. Well, I got several more.
Go for it.
All right. So acknowledge your viewpoint.
Okay.
Is the next one. Move forward. Where's the common ground?
Find common ground.
Yeah. Find some sort of, if you need to start way back at respect to be able to find more common ground, let's start at respect.
All right.
Because I don't care how old you are, what country you're from, what generation you were born into, what your birth order is. We all crave a certain level of respect. And unlike our culture, right, we can continue to disagree, but still actually like each other and even love each other because of respect being the foundation.
Runs deep.
It runs deep.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, and then common ground, state your feeling, why your view is important to you. Listen to them, why their view is important to them. And that's part of navigating the common ground piece as you go back and forth. And then encourage responses. Please take a moment. Tell me what you think. So, and then agree on a plan is the last one. Okay, what are we going to do? Where's our common ground? What are we agreeing that we can move forward on?
Yeah.
So,
no, that's really good. So just recap all those again.
Yeah, so recapping, check your attitude, assess the situation, establish ground rules, act quickly, fight fair, listen to understand, acknowledge their viewpoint, find common ground, state your feelings and why it's important to you, encourage responses, right? And come up with a plan.
Yeah.
So here's some things I found in my research that I did not know. Absolutely fascinating. Just kind of those people who avoid conflict lead to significant negative consequences, more than we usually think or understand, other than just having a continued broken relationship, right? People who deal with conflict tend to live longer, rather than those who just let it fester and gnaw. The emotional baggage that comes from unresolved conflict has a long-term effect on us physically. So if you're a person who resolves conflict and walks towards the messes, you're going to tend to live longer than those who don't, right? They die earlier.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So, but there's also a time, let me ask you a question. I've been talking.
Sure.
Can you think of any situation where it would be really good to avoid a conflict? Even if it's maybe temporary or longer term.
I think there is truth in minding your own business. I think there's a little bit of truth to that phrase that is so generally used.
Truth in what way?
There are times where there are other people that are in conflict, and there is a tendency from others to jump in too quickly. Part of the growth process of being, especially if we think about this in the Christian worldview, for instance, one of the reasons why I would answer this question of why godly men should not avoid conflict is the Matthew 18, right? Which says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you've gained your brother. If he does not listen, take one or two others along with you. You may, every charge may be established by evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. We jump to this, bring somebody else with me real quick.
A little too quick.
Right. So if I see Bill and say George or whatever, you're having a conflict, and that's fine, have your conflict. I don't need to jump in unless one of you asks me to. But we have a lot of people who are, they're jump inners, if that's a word. They like to jump in.
Yeah.
They insert themselves into other people's conflict.
Yeah, they pull the trigger too soon.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that would be one specific area that I would say, wait to be approached at first. Unless this thing is tanking and going real bad, right? And then you have a sense in which
offer.
You can offer to ask them.
Can I help in any way?
Can I be of any assistance to I see what's going on between the two of you, but don't jump in too soon, because you're skipping. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. Right. So, and we have a tendency to, if we're in the conflict, we have a tendency to go get the brother. Don't involve him in the conflict.
Yeah.
Right. Avoid that. Avoid that. Just have the. So that would just be one area that I can see. And I mean, we even see this in Luke 17. If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him.
Right.
Right. And if he sins against you 7 times in a day, turn to him 7 times. If he says he repents, you forgive him. So there is a sense in which conflict between 2 other people that are doing it biblically should be left alone. So don't jump in.
Don't interrupt the process yet.
Conflict.
Yeah.
At all costs.
Yeah.
And I'll just give, one more would be, part of what was in my notes was why I think this question is important that you asked. Is there a way we should, or a situation where we should be avoiding it? We need to define what the conflict is. Right. So defining conflict itself, it could be, fighting, combat, could be war, could be
verbal disagreement,
verbal disagreements, conflict with whatever. It could be just contention, strife, or whatnot. But it could also be, we need to define the context. Is this in marriage? Is it parenting? Is it relational? Is it spiritual war within me? Is it physical war? Is it road rage? Is it fighting for the last iPad on the shelf at the Apple store on Black Friday? Like, what is the conflict?
Right.
That will help you if you can step back from it and say, okay, what is this conflict I'm in? Okay, this is within my marriage. My wife and I are having, that is worth your effort.
Yeah.
Do everything you just said.
Right.
If it's parenting, that's worth the effort. If it's relationships, 9 times out of 10, worth the effort. Yeah. If it's spiritual war, it's a must. Right. If it's war globally for the country, sometimes that's a must.
Right.
You're called to serve and protect. You're called to serve and protect. If it's road rage, avoid that. If it's fighting for the last iPad, avoid that. And this is just context 101. Everybody should know this.
Yeah, I agree. I would add one, and you're hinting at it, but if I have a conflict with an individual and it's escalating and being close to becoming physical,
back out.
Let
it simmer down.
Or if I know approaching, it's always, this is a hothead. No matter what I do, they're going to come at me physically the next time I see them.
Right.
We're done. Yeah.
And I would add this too. I would preface it with 2 questions.
And I got one more.
To help you understand, right?
Yep.
Is my involvement in said conflict needed or necessary?
Good question.
Is my involvement in whatever this conflict is needed or necessary? Second question, is my continued involvement in said conflict necessary? Sometimes you can be that third person who comes in, helps a brother, gets out of there, your job's done.
Yeah.
You got to forget all about that conflict. You're done, right? Unless you're asked to follow up. Forget that. None of your business anymore, right? This is how it should work biblically. Is my continued involvement in said conflict necessary? Of course, if it's in your marriage, yes, you have to continue, right?
Right.
Because it's you and her for your marriage,
right?
Not each of you at war because of your marriage.
Right.
Yeah. So those are just some preface questions and some definitions to help people understand when it might be appropriate and when it might be
Those are good questions.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, one other go back to episode we did a couple episodes about dealing with toxic people. The other one I would just walk away from if the person I'm dealing with, the conflict in, is toxic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Someone who thrives on conflict and just goes one to another to another to another conflict, and they enjoy stirring the pot, stepping back and watch the fallout. Right? That's someone I'm not even going to engage with.
Right.
That's what the Bible calls that person a fool.
And this is where people think, because again, we asked the question, why godly men don't avoid conflict or shouldn't avoid it.
Shouldn't avoid it.
And we answered very briefly, but let me take us back to that as we kind of wrap
Please.
this up. Hebrews 12:14, we used a couple, and you use this one a little bit. Strive for peace with everyone.
Yeah.
Strive for it. It doesn't mean, it doesn't say resolve peace with everyone.
Right. It
Because
says
there are
work
going to be
towards it.
times
Yeah.
where peace is not
possible. Yeah.
right? The scriptures leave room for that. Even Paul did when he wrote in his letters. He leaves peace with make peace with everyone as far as it depends on you. Was that Paul?
I think so.
It was Paul. Anyway, look it up if I'm wrong. Let me know. But yeah, as far as it depends on you, or strive for peace with everyone, as it says in Hebrews. So again, the scriptures do leave room for that last disclosure you mentioned about somebody might be toxic and there's just not working. But the call is why godly men shouldn't avoid it. Well, we're called to strive for peace with everyone.
And honors God.
To get to peace, there's going to be conflict.
Yeah. It's just part of our obedience to the Lord
Yeah.
Almighty, who call it for us to behave like he behaves.
Yeah, let me look that up. As far as it depends on you. There it is. Okay, we'll figure out who said this. It's in Romans. So yes.
It was Paul.
Yeah.
Cool.
If it's possible, as far as it depends on you. Yeah. Yeah, so that's again, what I think it's, one more time, give us because what I would say again is define the conflict and then ask yourself those two questions. Is my involvement necessary?
Yep.
Is my continued involvement necessary? Know and understand that we're called to strive for peace. As far as it depends on us, we're striving for it with everyone, even those toxic folks at first, right? And how do we do it?
Check your attitude, assess the situation, establish ground rules, act quickly, don't let it fester, fight fair, listen to understand, don't listen to respond, acknowledge their viewpoint, find common ground, state your feelings and why it's important, encourage a response, agree on a plan. And I have a verse in a book to recommend. The book is The Peacemaking Pastor. If you're a church leader, Bible study leader even, it's a really great resource for learning how to navigate different situations biblically in regards to being a peacemaker. So The Peacemaking Pastor is the name of the book. But James 3:17 and 18. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering, without hypocrisy. And the seed whose fruit is righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. So it's what we're called to do.
Yep. So don't mistake it. Making peace is not synonymous with avoiding conflict. There may be times where that can happen. A soft answer turns away wrath. That's biblical.
Right.
Right? There could have been a lot of conflict, but you gave a soft answer and it completely turned away wrath. De-escalated it,
Yep.
right? Because you're good at making peace. But there are times where conflict is going to be necessary, unfortunately.
Yeah. And learning how to navigate it before you get there.
Yeah.
It's going to be very helpful for you.
Yep.
So
Hope this was helpful.
yeah, please let us know if there's a conflict that you're working through and how we can pray for you. Drop a comment. As always, like and subscribe. We really appreciate you watching, and we'll be praying for you. Take care.
See you next time.